You're listening to the Overwatch Rundown, a weekly podcast covering the latest in esports scene of competitive Overwatch. Today is June 17th, and we are covering Stage 4, Week 5 of the Overwatch League.
Leplos, you might as well have just said we're covering the end of the regular season.
I might as well.
There's nothing after Stage 4, Week 5.
You're right, except for the stage playoffs, because they do this weird system, which we are doing separately in another podcast. That's going to be on tomorrow night on Monday, June 18th. Okay. So, you guys that are watching us live and catch us on VODs, make sure you check that out. Of course, the podcast will be coming to you wherever you get that as well. So that will be over the next 2 days. So double podcast this week. Every time we do these stage playoffs, because there's always a lot to cover in Jax, it's the end of this season, so maybe even more to cover. You have me at 65 minutes. I don't know how we're going to do it. It's going to be tight, but we're going to move along and try and do that. But before we really get into covering what happened this week in the Overwatch League, and then obviously the rundown, which we actually do have some rundown stuff later this week, or from earlier in this week, I did want to ask you, how do you feel now that we're done the regular season? How are you feeling with the Overwatch League? Are you excited with how everything's gone down
I'm
this
excited
season?
for the playoffs that are coming up, except, they're 3 weeks away. Successful season if I'm Blizzard and I'm Commissioner Nate No Numbers Nanzer, and looking back on things if I'm the owners. Viewership.
Can we call him that, though? He had an interview. He tossed out like one number. I can't even tell you what that number was. It was very, very generic sort of number, if I remember. It's like they had like 85,000 in the first week and grew from there, but didn't really provide any other actual numbers. And that was on the business television, or like was that a Fox business television show?
News telecast. I don't remember what. I think in Discord earlier. It was last week. Sorry, not even this week.
So good news
you
is
have to be feeling good, Leplos.
It seems like commercially is doing well. I mean, obviously there's a lot of discussion in terms of the Reddits about whether the league is doing well. I think it's doing well overall, right? I mean, we've had in Blizzard We Trust part 7, I think is our last one, as we called it. While I'm not entirely trusting of Blizzard, and there's a topic I want to come back here to in just a minute, I think overall people are still engaged by the game and are still playing the game. The big question comes in what happens during the off season for the Overwatch League. I don't know. I did want to get to another question though, Jax, and that's regarding Stage 4 specifically, and another comment we had about Blizzard. How do you feel about Stage 4 being run on the old patch now that we've been through the entire stage?
I think Bryn made a Twitter post earlier this week saying that Blizzard was not justified, but it was a success that they ran it on the old patch because we're seeing all these varying compositions. The thing that pisses me off is that's irrelevant to the whole point. I don't care about we're seeing all these compositions. What I care about is I sit down and I watch the games today and I'm seeing people scattered to death. And if I were someone new coming to the game and like, oh hey, you know what? Let me play this Hanzo character, and then I go into the live game and say, oh, I don't have scatter. Where is scatter at, Lepolos?
Yeah.
What is this storm arrow?
Yeah. What is this little sprint jump that I have in the air? Why is he even in bear character on
less damage? Wait, are they on less damage? No, they're not on less damage.
Less damage pulse bomb.
I think they're still on 400 damage. But see, here's
the
thing.
The pulse bomb?
The fact that I don't know and I have to stop and think about what they're playing is part of the problem. So while it's entertaining, I still don't care for it. I don't like how they did it because there was time enough. There was 2 weeks or 3 weeks in between the end of Stage 3 and Stage 4, and even before then, there's plenty enough time for Blizzard, this multi-million-dollar company, to put out a patch that is both live for us, the players, and the professionals. So no, I'm not happy about that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Jax. I'm very much in agreement with you here. Even if they walked back the current changes to do what they were doing in Overwatch League, because they're like, hey, actually, we might have overtuned Hanzo by doing everything at once, I would have been happy with it too. But that was one comment. Jax, is there anything else you want to do off the opening before we get into Stage for week 5.
I'm good.
Uh,
Might as well hop into this rundown. The week started with great levels. Los Angeles Gladiators versus Shanghai Dragons. What a competitive matchup this was.
Shanghai trying to listen. I went through. I need to mention this because I did actually do the legwork to figure this out. It was back in January 21st on episode 70, I believe it is. Episode 70. That's back in January. You sort of were questioning me more and more about Shanghai and how they were doing, and I finally said something along the lines of it's going to be about 6 months before they're sort of competitive at the bottom. Not competitive, not as in able to take, like be competitive for winning many games, like be competitive to maybe win a game. And I said that way back in January that it was probably going to happen 6 months after season 1. And so I just wanted to enter that here at the start of our conversation because they play 2 games. Their first game against LA Gladiators looking really good. This stage, LA Gladiators, not Shanghai Dragons, of course. And what happened here, Jax? Nothing but a 4-0 by LA Gladiators, and not even a close one. I'm just going to read the home team's numbers here, and that's Shanghai Dragons, 0 on Kings Row, 1 on Horizon Lunar Colony, 1 on Lijiang Tower. I mean, I guess they got something there. And Watchpoint Gibraltar 1 there as well. Gladiators 3-2-2-3 on their victory scoreline on all 4 of those maps. I know.
I have no idea what you just did, but
all I'm trying to say is the Shanghai Dragons basically had captured as many points that LA Gladiators had on Kings Row, right? Okay. So it was not even close.
You can't. It's the last regular season podcast. You can't throw weird numbers at me.
It is. You're right. You're right. But you know what I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to make it more interesting to talk about Shanghai Dragons because
if you want to make it interesting, man, I can give you some numbers here.
I'm all about that.
At plus 12 here for overall elims to death for the entire series.
Plus but Jax, that sounds. I mean, that sounds like you're getting into specifics about making Shanghai Dragons look bad. And if we're part of the family of Blizzard, we're not. But if we were, then we gotta have hope for them and pick them and stuff.
At least, not casters, but some of the analysts have at least started to be honest with their viewership. This is part of the reason why you and I would probably never work under the Blizzard umbrella, because they would want us to censor ourselves and how we speak about these teams. You can't just come out and say, well, Shanghai is dog crap. Like they're bad. They are a waste. I couldn't say they are a waste of time to watch, when in fact, if you watch this Gladiators versus Shanghai series and you're not a fan of the Gladiators, then you wasted your time. If you're a Shanghai Dragons fan, I'm sorry, you wasted your time. You want to know why I can say that, Lepos? Not a single person on their team had a positive elims to death ratio in this series.
And that's horrible.
They got was Dia at +4, Addo, at -4, Addo at -5.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Like yeah, if your eliminations aren't even positive for one character, that's really bad. Jax, let's go ahead and move into another LA game. This time it's the Valiant taking on the Shock. And Shock coming out strong, actually. Kings Row, they managed to shut out Valiant on that Kings Row there at the start of there. But unfortunately, Shock unable to close this one out. I believe we both picked the Shock to win this game, Jax. We did, because we both didn't trust the Valiant here. Valiant able to bring this back.
It was a definite reach picking the Shock. They
had opportunity to. They just didn't play it like they could. Like I
have serious mixed feelings about San Francisco. I came into this stage expecting so much from this team, and we're at the end of the stage, and I just feel like they didn't meet my expectations. Krusty didn't meet my expectations, but of course he had a limited amount of time with the team.
Yeah.
There was I put it on Discord. There was an interesting clip of one of Sinatra's ranked games where he had Huck, general manager of the Boston Uprising, on his team. And it was Huck who had me stop when he made a comment asking Sinatra, well, how are you doing this stage with the new coach compared to Seffi, or I think Brad,
Brad,
their previous coach. And Huck being Huck was with his tongue-in-cheek comments. He basically pointed out that you're doing the same, and in fact, you're doing worse in some areas. So the coaching change didn't make a difference when it comes to the results, Lepelos.
Yeah.
So going forward, I think Krusty will be able to work his magic. At least
there
I
are
w-
still problems in
yeah,
the shock. In short, is what you're trying to say. I agree with that assessment too. I think his appearance definitely had impact in terms of the tightness of some of their play. But listen, it's not like Cressy is the be all solution to what the shock
right.
need, right? Like, and no one coach is infallible either, right? Like, he certainly has his own issues. As much as Striker was hit hard by this stage, you could argue maybe the dive meta favored Krusty as well as a coach, and here we are without dive meta as the prelim or the primary thing. And I think Krusty was saying himself, he views himself much more of a trainer. Maybe he didn't have enough time to train them, but at least got them working on dive, which he knows more intimately. But unfortunately, it was not a good meta for that. So, Shock looking like they have a number of things that they need to fix.
Match for the team uploads. Looking at the numbers here, Kings Row, the only map where the members, any member, just double check. Yeah, Kings Row, the only map where any member of the San Francisco Shock had a positive elims to death. That was everybody had positive elims to death on that map, which you're not surprised when it was a full hold for a first point, but to be negative, for even your DPS players to be negative, for your diva players, that was the thing that stood out for me in the previous series, between Gladiators and Shanghai, was how many times Gajuri was dying. Like, there was a map where she died more than free feel, and it's like your diva player, you've got mech, and then the mech doesn't count as a death. It's the baby diva. You're dying as baby diva. You're not getting your recalls, and that is just.
I think they might have focused her a little bit, but I also think she had a poor game.
The previous week, when they came close to beating the Florida Mayhem, Gajuri, who played so well and was doing her best to carry, I would focus her as well. She's the one doing the work. Put her at, lower her output. Game's much easier. So now we've got the first two games of the week. Lepelos not very competitive. We're on to game 3 of day 1.
Yeah, game 3 of day 1 was Seoul Dynasty taking on Dallas. Both of you and I had picked Dallas for this
playoff.
one.
Lepelos, the playoff implications here.
We're huge.
Dallas Fuel is stage 4. For Seoul Dynasty, it's end of season playoff. So both teams something to play for.
Yeah, Seoul Dynasty doing what they needed to hold in third section of Blizzard World. That was a pretty good hold, getting that first win. From there, they weren't able to capture out a point. 1 second. Did they get a point? If I remember correctly, they didn't. Let me check the stats here.
What are we talking about?
Of Horizon Lunar Colony.
No, they had 0%.
Well, I think they
didn't
on B. You mean?
Oh wait, who are we talking about?
Soul, yeah. I thought they only got like 94%.
Soul got the first point, and they got 98% of the second point.
Okay. Yeah, and then Dallas just completely failed, and all of a sudden you have 2-0 going into the half for Seoul Dynasty. From there, Dallas able to bring Oasis 2-1 to their side, but closed out on Dorado pretty hard. Seoul Dynasty winning this one in a 2-1 fashion. To take that win, keep their playoff hopes alive, and hurt Dallas hopeful for getting into the stage finals. I don't want to talk about implications too much, Jax, because we are moving things along this week. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. More playoff implications, though. More playoff implications.
The playoff implications are clear. Dallas taking a hit and Seoul moving up. I just in the nature of the game, it's just I'm still suffering from stage 4 or season long fatigue. And this whole week I was watching the games and wondering, what am I gonna do for season 2 when there are potentially 6 more teams? So there are 3 more games to be played, and I don't know if I'll be able to make it, Lepelos. I don't know if anyone will be able to make it. We'll be a lot more selective about what we watch.
We can come to that when it comes, but we are a fan podcast. We're not trying to be professional here where we go super into depth. I know we used to go more into depth, but honestly, guys, it doesn't pay the electricity bills even to watch the game. So we do it out of interest here, and that's probably how we're going to have to take it to. Listen, none of that trickle down family money from Blizzard will make it out our way. That will remain in the top levels as they continue to do their own podcasts and content to compete with people like us. So we have no chance of really competing.
That's just the fact.
Yeah,
Blizzard
exactly.
cannot compete with me. I am Jack's Blake.
There you go. You heard him. He's on fiber too, guys. No more Spectrum. No more Spectrum.
If you work for Spectrum, I am sorry. That's all I'll say there.
All right, let's go ahead. Moving to day 2, though, we had Houston Outlaws taking on Philadelphia Fusion.
This is another game with massive playoff implications.
Both teams trying to earn or secure their spots or potential spots in the case of Outlaws for the overall
Philly,
playoffs.
At this moment, had the 6th spot, but they're trying to hold on to it.
Yeah, and there's 2 ways that they could lose it. First, though, they had to not lose to Houston Outlaws. That would pretty much secure them a spot here, I believe. Unfortunately, they didn't do well against Houston Jacks. They, just for the record, you picked Fusion. I picked Outlaws here because who knows what Outlaws are going to show up. I felt like Carpe was going to go silent and Linkser was going to perform well, and pretty much that tells the story of what happened here between these 2 teams. Blizzard World 2-1 Fusion, 2-1 Horizon Lunar Colony, 2-1 Lijiang Tower, 3-0 Watchpoint Gibraltar, Houston Outlaws. Fusion collapsing, man. You can't have this happen.
I don't understand the lack of urgency from this team. Their playoff lives are not secure. You're fighting against one of your direct competitors here in the Houston Outlaws, a team that has been very questionable this stage, a team that has not adapted to the meta as well as we all thought they would. So this is, can the Fusion come out and execute? Can you? It's just literally execute the game with your God-given ability and win. Like, I think just talent for talent, I would take Philly over Houston. And once you do that, then it's communication and execution, and it's mind-boggling why this team it's so up and down, right? They are the middling top tier or top half Overwatch League team. They're like a gatekeeper almost, where if you can beat Philly, then you're on your way up. If you can't beat Philly, then you're pretty much going to stay in the bottom half of the league. Houston here beat Philly, got the win they needed, keep their playoff hopes alive, but it wasn't pretty. No, not at all.
No, yeah, not at all. Let's go ahead, though, move into the Florida Mayhem London Spitfire game really quickly. 3-2 Kings Road, 2-1 Hanamura, 2-1 Oasis, 1-0 Dorado. London Spitfire securing this one as expected over the Miami Mayhem. I'm not going to talk about that any further, Jax. We're just going to jump ahead into the third game.
I'm sorry.
We absolutely are. Mayhem have another game in the week. They're not worth it here. Not worth it, Jax.
We have to give somebody else some credit here. I'm sorry. Zappa's got to play. Are you just gonna forget that Zappa's played? It's the second time we've seen him since stage 2. That first week he showed up, So Zappa's getting some playtime here because their season is over. Sadly, it didn't help the team because everyone in every game. Sorry, I can't say that. In 2 of the games, they had a player with a 0 elims to death ratio, so they broke even. Everybody else negative. They can't even kill.
Another team that's doing poorly at the bottom of the Overwatch League. New York Excelsior is still playing Minecraft, taking on Boston Uprising. They're Minecraft able to win them Blizzard World, though, 2-1 there. 4-3, though, Horizon Lunar Colony, Uprising come right back. From there, they take the next 2 maps, 2-0 Lijiang Tower, 2-1 Watchpoint Gibraltar. Jax, NYXL, do you think they practice this week?
Since considering we have one of Boston's assistant coaches or their analyst, Mr. Bleeple, whoever it was, saying 2 weeks ago that New York has canceled all their scrims for them for the entire stage, and I think it's safe to say no, that they didn't practice. I don't know, man. I feel like we've talked about it the last 2 weeks, but I'm just gonna reiterate. I don't like how New York has approached this stage. I think it really hurts I know people will disagree with me, but I just feel like it hurts the integrity of the league that you have these playoff races going on where Boston is fighting for. They've made the playoffs, but they're fighting to secure their 3rd playoff spot, the 3rd seed in the playoffs here. And it just, New York is like, okay, we're just not going to try because we've got 1st place locked up, and that's all that matters. So the rest of the league can just do whatever they want. And it's frustrating as a fan of the game overall to have this happen.
Sorry about that. I might have heard a little car horn in the back, and probably not any different if you're in New York itself. Jax, we can continue talking about New York because they're actually in day 3, game 1, when Houston Outlaws take on NYXL. Starting in Blizzard World, 3-2 there for
Again,
Outlaws, looking good.
Must-win game for the Houston Outlaws.
We also said
to win everything.
We also said New York was going to win both games. They already lost against Uprising. And Uprising in Houston in this stage may be comparable because they have some issues. Although you have to say Houston seems to be running more tracers than other teams in this stage, which is weird. Anyways, Houston, as I said, winning that Blizzard World. New York Cell 2-1 on Horizon Lunar Colony. 2-1 Li Jiang Tower right back to Outlaws. From there, NYXL 2-1 Dorado, and then winning the tiebreaker on Nepal soundly in a 2-0 on Nepal. Yeah, NYXL able to bring this one round. Jax, Houston Outlaws not winning in the clutch. Linkser not doing enough, not able to carry the whole way. And no Mendo Kusai spotted the whole season.
I don't know who that is, and I've already told you I refuse to acknowledge that person. The person I'm going to acknowledge is someone you just mentioned, is Linkser. The plus 17 elims to death he had on Blizzard World. It's impossible. It's almost, I can't say it's impossible. It's almost impossible to keep that level of output up throughout the entire series. And like, you go back to week 1 where everybody was so hot, including us, on Houston. It's because Linkser played out of his mind, and we can't expect that for him in every game in a series, in every week in a stage. And I'm looking at Houston right now, and since we kind of rushed through, I'm going to take a minute or 3 here, Lepelos, to ask you. Tomorrow, Optic Gaming replaces General Manager Flame with Canadian man Lepelos. Do you keep the bulk of this roster for season 2, or do you replace?
As general manager, who do I mean the bulk. Okay, so you definitely get rid of Mendo Kusai, you get rid of Clockwork right off the start. Those two immediately gone. Who do you keep? Maybe this is a better answer. Who do you keep on?
Oh, I should also point out that Blizzard put out guidance for season 2. We forgot to mention this. Teams will be required to have a minimum of 8 players on their roster. There are other changes, such as for the contender side of things, where teams will be able to have, I think, 4 of their players on 2-way contracts, where they can be signed to the Overwatch League and also play for the academy team. For who's Houston's? I forget what their academy team is called.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
So Clockwork could be signed for Houston and play for the academy team. They can only.
Do they have an Optic Gaming academy team?
Yeah, probably is Optic. They can only play 2 of their Overwatch League players at a time, but they can have 4 of them signed to those 2-way contracts. There are other things that come up. But the other thing that I saw was when it comes to free agency and season 2 signings, where teams, I think come August, or I basically after the end of the first season playoffs, I think there'll be a signing period where the teams can sign their players to a second season and lock them in. And then after that, the expansion teams will be able to just go and pick up these players. All right. So
yeah, definitely a lot of interesting options in the future too. But
since I wasted some time, let me ask you now to change it. As general manager of the Houston Outlaws, Lepelos, who are the 6 people you for sure keep?
6 people I for sure keep. Okay, Linkser.
8.
Right?
Sorry.
Wait, I have to keep 8. Wow.
You have to have a roster of 8 for season 2. You have to.
But I am keeping 8 out of the players
you don't
here.
have to keep 8. No, sorry. I mean, I should ask. You don't have to keep 8.
Yeah.
Are there 8 players you would keep from Houston?
I mean, obviously, some of this will always depend, asterisk here, on who's available. Because sometimes maybe there's not going to be people when you talk with them that are going to be available because they're going to be poached by other teams or picked up by other teams before you can get to them. In terms of priority for keeping, Linkser number 1 up there. Honestly, though, like in sort of the maybe if you can't find better, but I would probably still keep because you're probably going to struggle to find people that can fill those roles. Jake, Coolmat, Spree, Muma.
Okay, but what about Banny and Raucus, Lepelos? Your support.
I'm not.
What a fall off for Raucus this stage. What has happened to him?
I would
thick, as they call him.
Yeah, I would replace. Okay, like I'd immediately replace Clockwork, Mendo Kusai, Fact of Fiction. Our hand, I'm half and half. It depends if you can.
He doesn't speak the language,
Maybe he's learning. I'm not going to get into that because you already have Korean coaches, and if you bring in more Korean players, that's not the issue, right? So
okay, I like it.
So that aside, we're left with Banny, Boink, and Raucus. Your support core. Because your tank core was not the major issue. It was your support core and some of your off DPS. Yep. Yeah. And that's your major issue there on player roster. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention I'd fire Kai too. But anyways.
Well, he's an assistant coach. You would fire Taeyong before Kai. You can't blame Kai.
Talk about. Listen, Jax. I just thorned that. Okay, no.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, let's be honest though. He was hired because he knew everybody already, right? And if you're changing up the lineup, I am sorry, you don't hire somebody that is already friends with everybody. Like, if he really impressed me in conversation and knew his stuff, which I honestly can't tell you if he does or does not, you would have to look at changes here in the coaching structure somewhere. And I don't know them well enough, to really comment on that, other than to say that the results so far haven't been great, and it looked like Kai was just an addition, being like, "Hey, here's a payout because we like you," and that goes into the whole thing with him.
As Mesra there as the tank coach, if I'm Optic Gaming, the owners or whoever is the owner above general manager Flame, I would have to have a serious, and I'm serious here, I can't believe I just said that, a serious conversation with Flame about some of these signings, Lepelos.
Yeah.
Clockwork, the man who won't be named, and even Arhan, I don't understand these signings don't make any sense. Like,
those were friends hiring friends, ultimately, and Kai for that matter too. Though.
Question, I'm for not just Houston, because we're light on time, but for Florida, you're gutting that team. For Shanghai, you're gutting that team. And when I say you're gutting them, Lepelos, it's not just the players, people. These coaches on these teams need to go. And quite often the general managers need whoever is in charge, right? You have the owner of the Shanghai Dragons, who cannot be fired unless Blizzard forces, I think it's NetEase, forces NetEase to sell the team. Anyone below the owner, anyone, Lepelos, any and everyone is fired.
I don't necessarily think about that. Definitely for Shanghai and MAM, they have a lot of stuff.
I will keep
Outlaws,
Ado
though.
And Fearless.
Yeah,
everyone else. Pack your stuff, get on a plane, and have a nice life.
Yes, absolutely for Shanghai. Pretty much the same for everyone except for Saya player, maybe, on MAM. I mean, maybe Logic since he started to perform, but
I wouldn't get rid of Tavik because Tavik.
Yeah, he's a flex, and he could be a good sub as well.
He's a bench player. If you can pull someone like Tavik off the bench, that's fantastic. But I'm sorry, Awesome Guy. I mean, you can't.
Swoosh.
Awesome Guy and Swoosh are okay, but Zebasai.
Maniton's okay. I might keep the Maniton around as a bench or / off tank.
That's fine. No,
if you can't find anyone else, but
even Mr.
your supports are done.
Moments though.
Yep.
Right. He stepped up.
But your supports are done. Your main tank positions are done on that team. I don't want to get into this, Jax. We're talking about the future again, though. This is going to take too long.
You're actually right. What I had thought about, and what I was bring it up now is I want to have an episode probably before, because we're gonna have like 3 weeks in between now and end of season, an episode where you and I basically play general manager and we go through each team to see what we do. So mark that on your calendar at some point.
Yeah.
That's something that I do want to do. Like what we're doing right now, I just want to do that, but go into more depth. And you're right, because we are taking a lot of time. I see a clock in chat. We haven't had a clock in chat in weeks, and I don't even remember what game or what day of the week we're on right now.
Yeah, no doubt. But we are actually on day 3 already, Jack. So we have actually done.
Did we do day 2?
Yeah, we did. I told you, I'm keeping us moving. Day two was that Houston Philly game. Man, London. We took a huge sidetrack here to discuss this game between Houston and NYXL. Coming up next, though, on day 3, game 2.
Wait, so Houston's out of the playoffs here, right?
Houston loses. I mean, that was not going to be a surprise. They're playing NYXL. They did better. They did better than I thought.
To Boston yesterday,
and they did. And Houston did better than I thought they would against NYXL, but just not enough. And again, that came because Linkser can only do so much, and he ran out of gas here, and nobody was there to pick up.
Did you keep Jake? Of course, everybody keeps Jake. You wouldn't do
I
that.
said, yeah. I mean, in a like in a environment where you're trying to sign people that are going to be um, competing for the better DPSs, you may not have an opportunity to replace Jake. So
I would replace him with Rascal Leplos if you can.
if you can get him, but he's now on an NRG sub team, so now you have to pay for that. So there's GMing is not easy.
Okay.
GMing is not as easy as putting who you want where you want. Sometimes it's a matter of resources that you can spend on people. Anyways, we don't know all and this is part of the problem, Jax, when we come to that episode. So we're just basically doing a preview episode for like 2 or 3 episodes from now when we talk about our GMing episode. But
people gonna be like, Jax, I already know you're gonna fire everybody. They're not wrong.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to be the voice of reason in there, and I'm not always reasonable myself. But
it's just, where am I gonna find? So my
Jax.
question for Shanghai is like, is there a
oh my god, we're back to Shanghai
players I have to have on the team? Because if I don't, then Shanghai won't be represented.
All I'm gonna say right now is come on, Eileen. But if
he's
we're
not
talking,
old enough. He's
not yet.
Even now,
Still not.
He's old enough.
Yeah, not for next year. It's like May 1st, 2018, or something. Or I can't remember. 98.
He's like September
or 2003.
No, Leplos, you're trying to distract me.
I am not, because we're trying to do your team. Yes.
Shields up against the Soul Dynasty in a must-win game for Soul.
Listen, I picked them with you this time. I do not trust Soul here to be able to clutch. I was surprised when Soul won against Dallas. I was like, wow, that was surprising. They actually won. And then, of course, they win often versus...
Since you opened the door, I'm going to slide in right there and say that was the best Soul Dynasty has played since Stage 1. A fantastic performance out of that team that had me wondering, where have you been for 3 stages? Fantastic performance from everyone. It's like, if they had played like that, they would be they could be second or third in the league right now, instead of trying and praying that they beat the Gladiators to keep their playoff hopes alive. When it comes to Soul, for our what would GM Lepolos do? That's not easy, man. Soul Dynasty. I already know you're cutting Miro, but we don't have Miro here. We
don't have time to GM this
in the main tank position here. Gladiators versus Dynasty, Lepolos. Run it down. Yeah,
Gladiators doing well to get King's Row, 3rd point here on King's Row, but not enough, because overtime attack there had failed for them on King's Row, where Soul Dynasty able to cap it out and hold Gladiators, then capture, I believe it was the 3rd that they needed on that A point.
I should also point out, since we're rushing, so I'm leaving out the little things, but this is not a little thing, because I'm looking at the roster here for the Los Angeles Gladiators, Lepolos. iRemix playing main tank for Fisher,
of course,
came down with a quote unquote cold or sickness of some sort.
Yeah, he had cold feet, I believe they call it, Jax, when he was facing Soul Dynasty here. iRemix, though, Soul Dynasty is everything you need. They're missing Fisher. You're like, okay, we can do this, right? They got the first map 4-3, and Gladiators 2-1 Hanamura, looking strong there on their hold on second point, particularly. Oasis 2-0, strong play coming out of hydration there. I believe on Oasis, if I remember correctly. And then Watchpoint Gibraltar, Dynasty fall apart. 4-3 Gladiators with an incredible hold on that first area.
The pressure, or I wish I knew.
It was iRemix, Jax, throwing the curveball, and Soul Dynasty not knowing how to deal with that.
iRemix, at times he would overextend and die, but he was a good caretaker. He did what he had to do to keep his team in the fights and get the win. Like, I can't. His numbers
You're not wrong.
Are not okay.
And I will also say, probably and we've said this about Soul too. You know how much they prepare for a team, and they do well in their preparation. And they clearly did well against Dallas. They probably prepared for Fisher here, and they didn't know what to do with
Twitter feeds today. And I think it was Shaz who said, props to iRemix, who came in last minute to step in for Fisher. So so even if Soul had spies, right, in the scrims, or
and spies
feeding them information, they wouldn't have the data that says iRemix is playing for Fisher, and the play style is vastly different when you have Fisher and I Remix. Like it's just two
Absolutely.
completely different teams. So the fact that Seoul did so well on Kings Row, is no one not surprising because even if you go back, Seoul is Lunatic High, and Lunatic High was always good on Kings Row. It's one of their better maps. Um, but
It was
for
still
Seoul
close there,
Dynasty
though.
fans, Lepelos, what a kick in the guts here. Like you
Yeah.
come into season 1 of Overwatch League, everyone is expecting you to take the title, to be the best team in the league. And here we are, and you're out.
Listen, when you come in with a name like Dynasty as well, and you do like this, yeah, that's it feels bad. Feels bad. I know we have some viewers that enjoy that team, or sorry, are fans of that team.
I mean,
Probably did not enjoy the team after season 1, though. So
the hopes for this team were so high. Everybody talking about Eska Lol is gone. Like you replace Eska with Flea, and you're thinking they've got it now. They've got everything they need. You see that they poach the GC Busan coach, and you're saying they've got the best coaches, they've got the best players, and they don't make doubles. They don't make the end of season playoffs. They don't make any stage playoffs.
yeah, kind of an issue.
Dynasty.
Big failure
There's
for
no
them.
way you could predict this, man. Wow.
I'm going to be talking about them in our GM role play.
You've already fired Miro. You've already
All
said
right, I have.
weeks ago.
I already said that.
Lepelos.
Absolutely. Okay.
He's
anyway,
still making videos. Like they put out the second half of his How to Play Winston guide on YouTube last week.
I'm not saying
cutting him.
I'm not saying he doesn't know his stuff, Jax. I'm just saying in terms of their team, that's one person I'd look at. Anyways, Jax, let's go ahead and move into Game 3. Dallas Fuel taking on the Valiant. I had Valiant here. Come on, Valiant. Up until this point, had a 9-0 streak going on here.
Here we go. Here we are again, because you're trying to leave out the fact that Dallas versus Valiant was a Black Star prediction.
It was. It was. People, and it should remain so.
Pick to the bank, to the bookies, take the Dallas Fuel because they will win. Lepelos, please run it down.
All right. Well, we had Fuel taking the Kings Row 2-1 in a pretty close one there in a defensive battle through the streets. That was a pretty good defense that they managed there. Taking that first map. Valiant come right back, though. Horizon Lunar Colony 4-3, which could have easily gone the Fuel's way if a couple of more things went their way on attack the second time through, which did not. Lijiang Tower 2-1 for the Fuel. And then we end up on Watchpoint Gibraltar with a 4-3 for the Dallas Fuel and closing this series out in a 3-1 victory over the Los Angeles Valiant. Listen, something like 25% of the time it works every time. We're talking, of course, about the Black Star pick.
No, it is in fact, I went back and checked. It is 2 for 3.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
3 for 3.
It should be
the one loss.
Come on.
I'm sorry. The one loss cannot be attributed to me. You cannot blame me for Boston completely falling apart and throwing a game. Like I made the pick. It was a valid pick. And you know what it was? It was May 25th, I believe. It was Valiant versus Boston. It went 5, and Boston completely fell apart on Nepal. There's only so much the Black Star prediction can do, right? It was the correct call, but Boston was Boston. They didn't uprise. They fell over and died. Here, yeah. I'm not surprised. You know me. I've been saying I'm not sold on this Los Angeles Valiant team. I have questions about this Los Angeles Valiant team. I now have more questions.
And here's the thing, Jax. We've watched. We know spoilers for what's happened. We have watched, and we know people. We're not going into that. But
no, we're not.
We do have questions about LA Valiant. You're saying.
I mean, it's just, did they lose here because the game didn't matter? Like, was this their sandbag? Because they've already locked up a playoff spot. They locked up end of season playoff spots. The only thing that mattered here would be seeding. And with this loss, Lepelos, the Los Angeles Gladiators are now first in stage 4. So if things stay true like they are here at this point in time, then the Gladiators would be the one picking who they want to face in the playoffs and not the Valiant.
Yeah, and there's another opportunity for changes to happen in the very next game on Saturday. Fusion taking on London. Fusion needing a 4-0 actually because of their earlier loss to Houston. They sort of put themselves into a bad spot here. Both you and I had picked the Fusion to win this game. Yes. I thought Fusion for sure would be able to make it into the the stage finals. But with their loss over Houston in 3-1 there, that gave opportunity for Dallas. If London takes a map in this match, Dallas would be going through instead of the Fusion into the stage finals. And so here we are, Fusion coming out strong, making a statement on Kings Row, 3-2 there with a strong showing, 3-2 Hanamura Jacks, 2-1 Oasis, and oh my god, Dallas looks like they're not going to make it. When we come to Watchpoint, Gibraltar goes all the way into OT, for the 3-2 victory for the London Spitfire.
The videos are out there of the various teams. I think
what a great
moment. Video of the Valiant watching this. There's a video of Dallas watching this and praying. I legit
it feels bad for Fusion though, right? Like you got
bad for Leplos. I'm sorry. No, it does not feel bad because what is it as a player? What is it you always want? You want your destiny to be in your own hands. You don't want to be like Dallas, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be like Dallas.
Watching and hoping for someone else to do you a favor. You want to be in control here, Levels. Fusion, they got up. Coach Chef Heidi made them the food, got them going. They come out strong on Kings Road, strong on Hanamura, on Oasis. I'm telling you right now, this should have been over here. But not the series, but their playoff chances. The Spitfire, 100% through
Oasis. Oh, come on, it's Oasis, Jax. It's Oasis.
London and Oasis. So you expect them to lose. But over the course of this series, they should have won Gesture. 2 highly questionable plays that, if I were a betting man or I was a law enforcement official, I would ask Gesture, were you paid by someone, specifically Philly?
Get that LAPD out there on the case, Jax.
That you did. And from there, you go to Watch Point, and this was what? A 2-minute overtime fight that London had to push those last few meters to cap it out, man. The drama, I know you question the drama and the hype sometimes. It fit here.
It was here. It was good here. This is exactly what you wanted.
This was a game that mattered, right?
The
last day of games, you've got
Fusion trying to make a stage.
Lines, you've got multiple storylines going on here. And this last map, the series may not have delivered. This last map delivered. Solid game here. And I'm sad to say, Leplos, we go from this 3-1. And yes, it was an entertaining 3-1. To Shanghai versus San Francisco and Boston versus Florida. Should I care, Leplos, or can I just go to the restroom for the next minute while you run this down?
I mean, I can run this down. The only reason you care is to hear that the Shanghai Dragons did it. They had the full loss season, not a single game won, not even a game drawn, because that's not possible. All on the L board as San Francisco Shock take this one in a 4-0 as well to humiliate the Shanghai Dragons one last time before they're broken up. I don't even want to run down the scores other than to say...
I mean, it's we're not going to run on the scores, but like I did previously, I have to give a man credit. The only person
I was
with
gonna say
100% win rate in Overwatch League, IDDQD. Yes, people. Yes, IDDQD.
You're wrong, Jax. Not the only man with 100% win rate.
As of this moment, Leplos.
No.
As of this moment.
Oh, I mean, when this happened.
Yeah. With 100% win rate.
That's true.
IDDQD.
IDDQD coming in doing some Widowmaker.
Making in Dorado Leplos. I couldn't really fault any of his play because he's playing Shanghai, so it's hard to be bad. He did his little thing. And they won.
If they had an all-star position for bench play, he would be number 1 in my books. So he'd be on the team for them if he was playing then. But
we're gonna go into this later on. But just briefly, your general manager of San Francisco Shock is IDDQD on your roster season 2.
No, because you look at how many DPS they have. He was a mistake to hire in the first place.
Leplos is Dante on your roster for season 2.
Maybe.
It's something for you to think about. We don't have to answer it now. Leplos. Yeah. It's something for you and everyone else to think about. The number of DPS players.
No, it's too like they would either have to get rid of.
Leplos, I'm almost certain he's on this roster is because he was signed to NRG and his NRG contract probably said, if we get a slot, you got a job. He's the only one. He's the only one like Harbaloo and the old NRG team. Harbaloo left right before right before Overwatch League, IDDQD, the only person who survived from
Yeah.
NRG to
Through. Yeah.
yeah.
Is he?
It's
I'll have
probably in
to
his
double
contract.
check. But listen. IDDQD, I still think, particularly with the league expanding, might have an opportunity again, maybe to be a bench player. Depends on. We don't see enough of him. I honestly can't tell you. He seems like a good player and knowledgeable, and obviously willing to be a team player and take that position, and earn a paycheck.
Levelos.
And that's hard to do sometimes.
Let's just look at their opponents right here. Imagine if the Shanghai Dragons had IDDQD on Widow
Instead
in
of
place
Dia.
of Dia.
Yep.
Okay? In place of Dia, when you're facing the
You're not
Florida
wrong.
Mayhem on Watch
You're not
Point,
wrong.
perhaps he'll get more than one elimination or one final blow in 3 rounds of Watch Point Gibraltar. Maybe he'll get at least one kill while playing Widow on Sanctum, the deciding map to spare your team from the humiliation of being winless. Perhaps if they had IDDQD instead of Dia, they would be 1-39 instead.
There are so many what ifs with that team. If honestly, I just simply go back, like, regardless of their players, Jackson. I know that's the first thing we focus on. You have to look at Shanghai's season as a failure of management, starting with the people that signed the coaches and the team. Right, so that goes above general manager.
Fire everybody else but the owner. Everybody else except the owner.
If you could fire the owner, you would do that too. And you're Blizzard, so maybe you can.
No.
So.
Okay. See, I have to. I can't say that. I'm keeping Gajuri, Ado, and Fearless. Everyone else can go.
Yeah, those are fine pickups. Those were fine pickups.
I don't even want them on the bench as backups. Lepelos. I mean.
I agree with you. There's nothing. There's no big redemption for Roshan, for Dia, for Free Feel. The only person that might be is if he can work on communication, because we never saw him enough. And he seemed to do well with Sky.
And I don't know. That's one of the big.
And I don't know, so I can't tell you.
I hyped him up, right? I was the one talking about my man, my boy, Zufan June, coming over and what he's gonna do for this team. And then,
listen, they like Free Feel. Maybe Free Feel was better at the communication thing, which is hard to.
He was. That was mix. Stated by.
And so, if he wants to compete on another team, because I don't think Shanghai Dragons are going to retool to be a fully Chinese team, that team needs to spend a lot more time figuring out how they're going to work on communication issues.
Okay, something last thing before we go to the last game of the season, Leplo, something for you to keep in mind as general manager of the Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah.
How over 2 Chinese players on your team for season 2. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. Not now. Just think about it.
All right. Okay. Well, that's a good question. They have some interesting balancing that they have to do between fans and skill level. Clearly,
but see, you look at a team like New York, right? A very obviously a very American city with an all Korean team.
Yeah.
So obviously,
but their management group was pretty open to that attitude. The question is do the managers of the Chinese scene, like, and this is a cultural thing I can't tell you about Shanghai and their trying to make fans.
Okay, now we're taking time, but I have to ask, because this is something you have spoken about, Lepelos. For season 2, it is once again going to be held, majority of it, in Los Angeles. Does it matter then that they don't have Chinese players on their team? They're not going to be.
If I was managing the team, I would absolutely not care about that whatsoever.
We go to Philadelphia. We saw the Outlaws and the Fuel go down to Texas. New York even went to New York. Did the Dragons go to China? No, not at all, Lepelos.
Maybe that's because some visa issues and getting back and forward might be some issues. But
then something keep in mind then, Lepelos. Does it matter then if they have no Chinese players for season 2?
The answer is no. It doesn't matter to me. I don't think it. Obviously, some
people. Lepelos is getting rid of all Chinese players on the Shanghai Dragons.
If they have, I'm not saying that.
Lepelos on Twitter. Let him.
What I will say,
at what he just said right there.
What I will say is the best Chinese players, if they can compete at the level and they're showing that they can, then you hire them. Obviously, if you can, even play a premium, maybe if you're a Shanghai Dragons team. But if they can't, then you don't sweat it. You find the best players that you can for your team, so you can win.
The sad thing about this, if I were to go and find the best team playing in Chinese scene right now, it's full of Koreans. Damn it.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that frustrating? It is. Speaking of frustrating, we have one last game to talk about for it.
So bad.
for the week, and it has another one of your favorite teams to talk about, Jack. So
I
we're
don't
talking
care.
Boston Uprising versus Florida Mayhem.
Don't care.
Let me just run down the score: 3-0 Kings Row, 4-3 Horizon Lunar Colony, 2-1 Lijiang Tower, 3-0 Walter Point Gibraltar, and we have another person undefeated on maps. It is none other than Snow. Jax, we had snow in June in LA.
That is terrible, level.
It was terrible. It sounds as terrible as it did in my head, but I still have to say it because honestly, we hadn't seen him. You know, we made it through all of winter without seeing snow, and it wasn't until the end of spring.
Did we see a Vast? Didn't see a Vast at all, did we?
No, we didn't see a Vast.
See, you forgot he even played for the team. He's one of the 5 support players that Boston has signed.
I mean, there's people that played that you don't. Do you remember Fact or Fiction for Outlaws?
I do remember. Fact at least played. Was it this stage? No, he played in stage 3. We haven't seen. Did we?
You don't even know.
Did he play at all?
I think he did not. Maybe once in stage 1, but I would have to look up his stats to check that.
Who just messaged me and why? Please stop.
I'm not entirely sure if he did or did not, but probably not. And how bad is it then if he hasn't played and here we are at the last and you give Snow a chance and not a Vast? I'm pretty sure he did play at one point, but I'm probably just imagining somebody else. You know who else didn't play though, Jax? Joe Meister. Joe Meister didn't play.
You know what the sad thing is? Joe Meister, because of the Fusion didn't have their team together for preseason, he's the only one who has been signed from the beginning to the end who has not played. I think Izayaki for the Valiant. I hope I didn't butcher that man's name. But the Valiant have a Korean player who we haven't seen. Did we see him once? No, I don't think we saw him.
I don't think so.
Week. No, so
Jax, but you have to say it.
But Joe Meister, wow.
Best support chef, Joe Meister. Warmest of benches, Joe Meister on the Fusion. Listen, I like the guy. You know, if he wasn't up to snuff, hopefully he'll find some practice time and a team that will at least take him on in a occasional support role in the future, and he'll have another chance to prove himself. Maybe I'm wrong on that though. Honestly, it's hard to get a good read on that. I haven't seen anything really negative come out of Joe Meister though. So maybe that's just a Canadianism. I'm not sure.
It feels bad for him. I think we might have a chance of seeing him on Team Canada for Overwatch World Cup, but his personal brand, when it comes
is hurt by that. But
like, if you're Tucker, I think that's the general manager's name for the Florida. Oh my God, Florida for the Philadelphia Fusion. And you have to make your mind up come August who you want to sign and lock down on the roster for season 2, and Joe Meister might not be secure.
Yeah, but you know what? We're not even talking about Uprising or Florida here because it was about as exciting as watching paint dry, watching these two teams play in the end. As I said, best thing out of this series is Snow finally got to play. So there we are, Jack. Okay. We're done regular season, and we know who's in for the playoffs.
Season. I think I asked you this before, but I'm gonna ask you it again.
All right.
You look at the end of the season, right? You kind of want to end on high notes. If you're Commissioner Nate Nanzer and you look at, once the season is going, right, or once this final stage is going, and you're looking at how teams are playing, do you step in and change the schedule so that fans are not forced to watch these last 2 games to end the season up close?
No, you don't. You don't do this.
You end the season with these 2 garbage.
It's just
the worst games.
It's just the regular season. Like what happens in sports. Listen, this is not the WWE. You don't match fix and you don't move things around to be like this is for sure gonna. And you don't build up hype like that because then guess what happens think of how bad it is when you hype up a game and it goes worse in those situations.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 90% sure that the NFL will move teams around for like Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, right? They don't want a crappy game, dude. I'm pretty sure that they will adjust the schedule, say, hey, yeah, we're gonna slide you into the prime television spot here because we don't want, crap. Like it's just for me, I was sitting here watching, and just to be honest here, I did not watch much of Boston versus Florida, and you want to know why? The previous game, Lepolos, between San Francisco and Shanghai bored me to death, and I lost complete interest in Overwatch for the rest of the night. And you don't want that to happen. And
yeah, so I looked it up, and what they do is they have the opportunity to move Sunday afternoon games into primetime Sunday evening,
Saturday,
if there's interest. Sunday afternoon games are eligible to be moved to Sunday night, in which case they're tentatively scheduled. Sunday night will be moved to the afternoon. So it's to make sure that their Sunday night game is of interest. So, I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with you that there's not a point to do that. I'm just, you know, if you meddle around too much in the scheduling, then it comes across as like I'm trying to build drama and hype. And listen, they're already doing too much of that as it is. Right.
Okay. All right. No, it was just something that.
Okay, Jax, we are done our regular season coverage. Just a reminder for everybody, we're not doing all of the coverage this week. Tomorrow night we are going to do a different podcast, we're doing the same podcast, but another episode where we do the stage playoffs in a shorter time. We're trying to keep this one short, Jack, so we have to get through the rundown of PIT. One sec. We have to get through the PIT, the land story tonight, and of course...
Levels. We have ended the season. We haven't even said who made the playoffs.
That's what I was going to.
You want to skip out of the league? Like,
well,
we haven't even.
Well, we have to talk about the pick Jacks of.
I mean, you're talking about stage 4 playoffs. I'm talking about end of season. Like the season is over, so we've got our 6 playoff teams.
Yeah, we do.
We didn't even announce them, Lepolos.
Yeah, you're true. If you want to do that right now, then
I'm just saying. Like, is this not the proper order here?
Listen, who knows the proper order? Because who else has like these mini tournaments at the end of regular season? And like, what's more important? Obviously the final playoffs, but those are 3 weeks away, Jax.
Okay,
does it even matter we announce it? Nobody's going to remember that.
The momentum is lost. We're going to end Overwatch League coverage right now. We're going to do PIT and the Chinese tournament that I can't find any information about, and then we're going to come back to Overwatch League with our look ahead at the playoffs, which we're going to cover.
Our mention of what's happening in tomorrow's episode.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Very unprofessional of us to handle this on air like this. You and I should have covered this beforehand.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go into that too much because it's easier to go into that more tomorrow when we maybe have a little bit more time. Okay. But we'll cover. We can do that today. But what we're doing first.
You're saying we're going to have a lot of time tomorrow, like the games weren't long or something.
I'm not saying anything about that at all.
Well, we're doing rundown now.
No spoilers here, everybody. But no, anyways, yeah.
North America that we still had left to cover because for some reason, even at least you know why.
Yeah, because they can only play on days that the Overwatch are not playing. At least when you're playing in NA. It is a siren, and it's a warning. Okay. It's a warning for opponents that Goats had to make their way up after losing to Energy Esports from the lower bracket. And I say that because Jax up, Siren's getting closer. Goats getting closer to the finals here too, right? Goats defeating Grizzly Esports, Fusion University again in lower brackets here during this week. It was actually June 11th where they beat Fusion University 3-0 this time. To move up to the loser finals where they had to take on Last Night Leftovers. Last Night Leftovers, now with Coach Brad, formerly of The Shock, unable to beat Energy Esports. Energy winning that one 3-2 in the winners final. Goats also able to win it over Last Night's Leftovers 3-2 in a close one in the losers finals to get a grand finals between Energy and Goats yet again. And of course, it's Energy that takes it over Goats 3-0. With a draw on one map, in the grand finals.
Out of NRG, they've won. Did they win? Who won beat? Did they win beat? While we're talking, let me just take a look. Well, basically, what I'm getting at is the results have now gotten the coach for San Francisco. For NRG, he's now been given full-time head coaching status for the Shock. So they like what he's doing, right? He's putting together a winning roster. Hopefully they don't sabotage him for season 2 of Contenders like they did season 1 when they sold Moth and Damon out from underneath him right in the middle of the season. You lose your main DPS and your main support. Like that's pretty much impossible to come back from.
We did get to see Damon this week, by the way. Again, lose.
Yeah.
They're still what that tweet is hilarious, by the way. That's still up there, but
from Fozix, yeah.
That said, Energy did replace and got a good replacement this week too. They got picked up Rascal, so they're looking pretty strong.
Solid pickup for Rascal. He's he just got to Korea, and he probably is on his way back because they've got to start preparing for Contender season 2. I do want to say, the Fusion University results here are not what you expect from the team that won Contenders. But from what we have learned, they haven't practiced, right? They went from winning Contenders to a vacation, well-earned vacation because they won Contenders.
Yeah.
And this was I think they were a last-minute replacement here. No, that was in B. Sorry. But they haven't had time to practice on a new patch. They have to find themselves again, right? You don't just pick up where you left off. The game doesn't work like that. So looking forward to seeing if they recover their old form come Contenders season 2. Look and see if Envision can bounce back, because if you're Envision and you're looking at a losers bracket quarterfinal or semifinal exit, this is not what you expect if you're Envision levels. This is a poor result. So, another team that has to find their way. Goats not winning here, not winning in trials, and so Goats are looking like they might be put out to the pasture. So we'll see.
Speaking of putting out to the pasture, Jax.
Yeah.
You searched far afield.
I can't find it, man.
Far afield for Land Story Cup 2018 Chengdu, and could not find anything. You did get the result here, though. The final result.
Yeah.
You didn't even find the final result for the finals here. We do have the semifinals listed. Do you know the winning result?
No, I think we covered the semifinals last week.
Yeah,
I think.
So we know it was going to be Lucky Future Zenith versus LGD Gaming in the finals.
Yes.
That's all we know. That was supposed to take place according to this June 10th.
So
that was like
a
week ago.
To find out, and my extensive use of Google Translate, Lucky Future Zenith once again beat LGD Gaming, right? I don't know what the score is. I don't know what maps were played. I don't have any stats. I just know that LGD lost. I go to LGD's Twitter page. They're saying close, but not quite. LGD Eileen was thanking the fans for all of the support, saying, we're going to come back, season 2 Contenders. That's it. I go to the website for the tournament. They don't have VODs. Google Translate can't tell me anything. So if anyone knows what the actual maps that were played, what the map score was, please at Jax_Blake on Twitter, because I'm interested. These two teams, they had in Contender season 1 a best of 7 championship levels that went all 7 games, with Lucky Future Zenith coming out on top. I want to see, was this a close series? I don't know, right? Like, has LGD closed the gap at all? Obviously not. If they lost the best of 7 in 7, that's pretty close. So the only thing left for them to do is to win. They didn't win. I know that much. So sadly, the best team in China is full of Koreans still. I'm just saying.
You're not wrong. I mean, they say they're located in China and they play in China, and I guess that makes a Chinese team as much as any other. What does nationality really mean, Jax?
This team
we're in a post-national world.
They're Dodgers. All they do is dodge, man. The team full of Koreans that didn't play in Apex. You know what they did? They went down to OPC in the Pacific region and beat up on everybody there. And so then after, okay, fine. They're going to leave. Now that OPC is no more and we have more of these regional contenders tournaments, they're now going to go back to Korea and show us what they can do in the highest level of competition that they have access to. But no.
Jax,
we like China. We're gonna hang out there, make a few dollars.
Total earnings, Jax. Total earnings. I'm looking at team information. It says $40,000, $841. So they might be chasing money, but money is still tight in the scene. I'm just gonna say that. So.
Path to Pro, Leplos. Path to Pro.
Path to Pro, guys. Well, did you want to go into the playoff standings now, Jax?
I mean, okay, so
we definitely need to do stage playoffs.
Leplos, we're going back to the Overwatch League. Very unprofessional of us to not have this all laid out. So we're gonna take a quick look.
We have 2 episodes, and we're already over time. That's why I'm trying to move us along.
I mean, because tomorrow was the playoff episode. We're just gonna focus on the stage 4 playoffs. I thought that's what we're doing. So we won't take long here. We're just gonna run it down. Leplos season 1 playoffs, right? The top 6
teams we're doing season 1 playoffs.
Season 1 playoffs. Top 6 teams that have qualified. New York Excelsior, Los Angeles Valiant. Those 2 automatically through to the semifinals of season 1 playoffs because of their finishing at top of Atlantic and the Pacific divisions. Okay. 3 is Boston Uprising, who will face the Philadelphia Fusion. 3 versus 6. And then you've got Los Angeles Gladiators versus London Spitfire, 4 versus 5. And that will be our season 1 playoffs right there. It's not what you expected, right? Like, even after stage, at the end of stage 1, there's no way you or I could have said the Los Angeles Gladiators would go from being 3rd worst team in the league to 4th best team in the league. It's unimaginable. And there's no way you would tell me the Seoul Dynasty would finish 8th levels. 8th.
Yeah, and out of the playoff contention, it makes up for some interesting things. Boston Fusion matchup is going to be very interesting to see if Fusion can right themselves after they've looked sort of out of sorts. Even Boston, though, not having a great stage 4, it'll be interesting to know. Do we know what patch they're playing? Yeah, we don't. So it's going to be hard.
Actually, but I think there was a press release.
Listen, we don't know. If we can find this for tomorrow, we'll get on that. I think the Gladiators versus London. Right now, London, I can't trust them. I'm feeling Gladiators in that matchup. I mean, and then we end up. We're not doing predictions though.
We're nowhere near predictions. I mean, London had. I don't think they've beaten. Have they beaten the Gladiators since Fisher went there?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean. That was the whole thing about getting the callback. Anyways, New York Excelsior maybe starting to remove some of the sandbags, hopefully, for the future. We'll see how they do in the semifinal.
When we run down the playoffs.
When we talk about what happens.
So, Stage 4 playoffs.
Stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned. We have more.
Are we doing Stage 4 playoffs now?
We have to mention that Gladiators got the pick. The Gladiators got to pick who they were going to face, and they chose the Valiant. And that means NYXL takes on the Dallas Fuel in the other semifinal, and then you end up with.
We have to role play then. You're Coach Deepay. You're head coach Deepay of the Los Angeles Gladiators. You can pick your opponent for the semifinals of the Stage 4 playoffs. Who do you pick and why?
Dallas Fuel, easiest team to beat. You want to secure your spot in the finals.
Really? So you wouldn't go after the Los Angeles Valiant because for the story, right? For the rivalry, the battle for Los Angeles, you previously lost to them 3 out of the 4 times that you've played. Most recently 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, where you were swept 3-0 by the Valiant.
No, listen. You go for your wins. You take what victories you can get when you can get them, because you're not guaranteed them in the future. So you beat up on the little guy to get as far as you can in the playoffs, and if they meet you there in the stage final, that's what you want, because that would be even bigger drama than picking them in the first place.
Sorry to cut you off there. I just briefly went by Fisher, main tank starter for Los Angeles Gladiators, went by his Twitter page. We picked the Los Angeles Valiant because, first, we don't think the stage playoffs are important, so we want to make the playoffs the most fun game on this stage again. I butchered this because I'm trying to correct the grammar here, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. And second, the LA match is the most fun game, and we want to have drama. We want revenge. Lastly, everyone wants to see LA versus LA too. So this is from Fisher. If you're a Coach Deepay, this is what your main tank is saying the day before the game and explaining why this is who you picked.
I'm not saying that those are invalid reasons. I'm just saying over the long term for your franchise, it's better for you to take what wins you can get. And if you can get to stage finals and say we were there at least in the future, no one's going to be like, oh yeah, but they didn't take on LA in the first. You know what I mean?
Okay, then. Another since we're towards the end of the podcast here, Levels, another role play opportunity for you. You are now switched from head coach Deepay to Commissioner Nate Nanzer of the Overwatch League. You have one of the stars of your league, uh, who has just come out publicly and said the stage playoffs are unimportant. Okay, you have the best team in your league. Everyone is acknowledging them as having sandbagged the entire stage because it doesn't matter. Are you happy with this as commissioner of the Overwatch League?
Uh, Listen, as commissioner of the Overwatch League, I don't know the numbers, so it's hard to comment on whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. But I think our sponsorships loved it, so I think league is doing great. Everyone, Nate, no numbers, Nanzer here. Things are perfect. We're doing good.
Fantastic.
Make sure you guys stop by for the Sour Patch Kids Thunder Sticks. You know, maybe pick up a Toyota on your way home. Because we're doing great in the Overwatch League. No worries about the future or Fortnite, guys. Don't pay attention to that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nate, for stopping by the Overwatch Rundown. This is episode, what number? We're 90 what?
93.
90? This is episode 93. We'll be back tomorrow. Wow.
Yep.
Not much time off, Lepelos, to cover the Stage 4 playoffs. Fisher doesn't think they're important. They're important to you and I, and hopefully important to our listeners. And I'm just saying that I don't really like that comment from Fisher. I don't think you, as a player, you should never say something is not important. Like,
you know what is important though? Our podcast, Jax. It's important to me and you. We're gonna at least keep this going to number 100. We're already at.
Will we make it that far?
Listen. We're doing 90.
Lepelos,
what is it? This is 93.
94
tomorrow. And, well, I mean, actually, have you checked the schedule? Have you seen the schedule for the playoffs? Have you looked at it?
Schedule for the playoffs.
So, I know we're going to go into depth about this, but just consider this. July 11th, 2 games, 2 games on July 11th, 2 games on, potential for 2 games on July 13th, potential for 2 games July 14th, another break July 18th, and July 18th through the 21st, and then another break before the grand final matches, July 27th. So we have matches from July 11th through July 28th. Those are at least 4 episodes, 1 preview plus 3 weeks.
Okay, so looking at the playoffs, so the week of
crazy. It's just crazy, Jax.
This is so stupid. We'll deal with it when it comes up, Lepelos. We're here at the end of episode 92. You got to close us off properly. He's at Lepelos on Twitter. Remember, Shanghai Dragons fans, you're gonna blast this guy because he says you don't
January 21st, half a year
for season 2 because you're not playing in China. You're
playing I need to say it again, Jax. So
hire Americans. That's what he said.
January 21st, I said it wasn't going to be. I said January 21st, it was going to be 6 months, which is going to be after season 1 before they could even be competitive to try and take a game.
And so now it's 6 months, not even 6 months later, and you have now fired all of the Chinese.
That's the way you stay competitive with that Shanghai Dragon team.
Koreans, Americans, they might even go to Brazil and find the next hydration.
Or Argentina,
even. Hear from you. Shanghai Dragons fans, tell him why you need Chinese players on your team. If you're a Seoul Dynasty fan, he has already fired Miro. Think about that. Miro is gone. Who else is next? If Miro is not safe, is Jaehong safe? Is Toby safe? Let @Lepelos know on Twitter. Me @Jax_Blake. I bring to you the Black Star predictions. 2 out of 3 are correct. It should be 3 out of 3. You cannot blame the Black Star for Boston throwing the game against the Valiant. Not my fault. I called it correctly.
Man.
They failed to live up to their expectations, and as they should have. But @Jax_Blake. We are at OW Rundown on Twitter. Just let us know. Just give us some feedback. We've made it through the entire regular season. Let us know what you think about the show. Hit us up. He is twitch.tv/Lepelos every Sunday at starting around 9 Pacific PST is where you can find us. Google YouTube /Lepelos or YouTube Lepelos.
You'll find us out there.
Stop by the Discord. You can find a link on our Twitter. Chat with us. Come to the Overwatch section. I post links. We have discussions. I post media pictures. A lot of it is Chef Coach Heidi's food. But, all the video clips that you may or may not see on the competitive Reddit, just stop by the Discord. Hang out. Talk. It's free. Say hello.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything else, Lepelos?
Listen,
back tomorrow for episode 90. Something.
94 tomorrow. 94. No, you're not missing anything, Jax. But I do feel with all the social media, we're always trying to expand the number of things. So if you guys want us on, I don't know, Foursquare, Snapchat, Carrier Pigeon, do let us know. How many shoutouts do we need? The subscribe, notify button. I don't know how to do it all, Jax. I don't know how to do it all. What I do know is this is a music to play us out.
I can't believe you have fired all the Chinese. They're gone. Levelos has rid the Overwatch League of Chinese players. Mind stunned, boggled.
All right. Okay, well, stopping recording.